Well, I thought we'd take a bit of a more detailed look inside this. So this is the Roberts RM20. I did a video about it the other day, just introducing it really. And I thought we'd take the back off and have a look at the components inside. It is a beautiful piece of kit. You see it says by appointment to Her Majesty the Queen just there. Now we get that in the UK on products that the Queen sort of endorses or buys. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's on here and it looks cool. We've got the tuning dial here. Now I hope to reuse this whole section here. I don't want to take it out and put an LCD in. I'd like to just reuse it, maybe relabel it. I might put a new sort of tuning thing in the background, but keep the little bar and maybe have a potentiometer or an encoder, or even just read the variable capacitor that's probably in here. We've got the switches for medium wave and long wave, and I think I'll reuse those. I don't know what for. They're going to be Gaeng switches, aren't they? So we'll see what kind of connections we've got there. And then we've got this on-off volume control, and I think I'll try and keep that for at least for the on-off switch. I'm not sure how I'm going to do the volume, because this is going to be sort of a different setup than I'll want for the amplifier that I'm going to use, which is probably going to be a PAM8403, just because they're nice little amplifiers. And we've got the speaker grill here. I think the whole front of this is just a really lovely design. Nice little feature on it. On the bottom, we've got these rubber feet and some more screws which hold in part of the board. In fact, it's probably going to be the metal frame inside. So let's start taking it to pieces, shall we? Now I've put the back on so you could see everything that I could see. Now we've got new wavelengths for 23rd of November 1978 there, which is pretty cool. And it says what the medium wave for radio 1, radio 2, radio 3 and radio 4 are. And then we've got some information about the mains input here, and a lovely serial number as well. Now we'll be keeping the back panel of this because I just think it's nice. It's only got 3 screws on the back here. I've had it off already. You'll see that the stuff's warped a little bit. I assume that's from the heat inside the case. So that's right next to the power supply. So I'm assuming that's why it's warped. I might wet it a little bit because it's just some kind of cardboard material. So I may soak it and straighten it out again, because we won't be getting that kind of heat on the thing when I'm done. I don't know if we're going to reuse the power supply. We'll talk about that in a second. So this just sort of lifts out. It's got a cutout for the cable there, and there's nothing on the back. Well, apart from some spider webs, it seems. Now, inside here we've got the speaker. It's a 12 ohm speaker. I may replace that. I'm not sure. It depends how it sounds. I'll plug some modern audio through it and see what it sounds like, because the radio is not going to sound like, well, the radio signal that's coming through will have distortion in it, and the Raspberry Pi is going to be kicking out Wi-Fi radio, so it shouldn't have very much distortion. There's arguments as to whether it's going to be as high quality or not, but we'll play with that later. Now we've got a board on the top here, and we'll try and figure out what these are. This has a massive ferrite core attached to it through this yellow wire, it seems. But I'll unscrew that and we'll take a little bit of a deeper look. This is the power supply right here, and we've got a large transformer there. So let's start unscrewing a few of these bits. Oh, they're pretty tight in there. I'll skip through a little bit of this if it starts to get a little bit tedious, which it may well do. Oh, it's not unscrewed all the way. This is a magnetic screwdriver, so it should just pick them up. And then one more just there. And then this bit should lift. I'm not sure if it's going to come out all the way. No, it won't. I see. We've got lots of wires coming off there. What can we do to take this out? Oh, it looks like we might have to take out part of the assembly. These wires are going to the Gaeng switch and, God, all over the place. We actually have a loose wire in there, which is interesting. So this wire appears to be unconnected. I wonder why that is. Did it come off? It looks like it might have just come off, but I don't know what that's going to, so something mustn't have been working. Interesting, or maybe it's some kind of filtering thing, I'm not sure. So in here we've got the back section here is the tuning dial, and that has the sort of light in there, and I assume it's going to be some kind of incandescent light. It's not going to be an LED, but we're going to switch it out for an LED, I think. It depends what the quality of the light's going to change to. I might try and find some warm white LEDs because I don't want it to be a cold blue or anything like that. But I don't really want to keep all of the internals anymore. I did look at trying to do that, but there's just not enough space in there to put an Arduino and a new power supply. It's just not possible really. So we're going to be removing everything. There's quite a lot of cables here we can move over. So there's the power supply cable. We've got a cable going down here to the speaker, which is wrapped around the top here. So let's give myself a little bit more room to maneuver and then pull that through. There we go, we can pull that out a little bit more. And you can see down the bottom there, we've got the Gaeng switches. I don't know if we'll be able to, oh, you can sort of see, if you look at the middle section here, you can see that they go in and out. So they're connected together. They're a little bit rubbish, but we'll try and make them work. If we can't, we'll try and replace them and just use the same knobs on the front for the new ones. And then we have our tuning dial down here and our volume control, which is connected to all of this stuff, is just there. So it looks like it's actually a power volume control just down the bottom there. So that's nice. It's connected not to the power supply, is it? Yes, it is connected directly to the power supply. It pains me to do this, but I am actually going to cut the wires off this board. I'm going to keep the speaker wire intact, and we're going to keep the power wires intact. And then we're going to remove everything else, which is all going to be signal wires, I think. So let's just cut them away from the board. And then one last one. Oh. There we go. Now we can see inside a little bit better. In fact, let's have a look at this board. So it's an interesting one. We've got a lot of solder on here that's tinned up those tracks. So this would have been a bare copper. It would have been etched away. We've got Roberts radio TRX 24/26. And are these are variable capacitors, are they? Oh no, it says 10. I'm not entirely sure what they are. I'm not familiar with radio circuits at all. These are certainly variable capacitors, aren't they? These ones here. And that would be a potentiometer. Or could it be a capacitor? I don't know, in fact. But yeah, it's an interesting board, isn't it? Looks nice. Okay. So we've got a lot more space in here now, which means I could put the Raspberry Pi in there, oriented that way, and I wouldn't actually have to mess around with too much else. I'd like to be able to read the value coming off this tuning capacitor here. I think that's what it is. It's my assumption that it's a tuning capacitor. And we can probably just take out this ferrite rod, can't we? And then we've got our Gaeng switches. There's these yellow ones are the power. That will be 24 volts. So this power supply kicks out 6 volts and 24 volts. My assumption is 6 volts is going to the main board, and then 24 volts is going to drive the incandescent bulb that's in here, which I don't know how easy that's going to be to get out, but we'll work it out a little bit. But yeah, I probably need to take everything out of here really, just so we can get an idea as to what's going on. Let's take the power supply out, shall we? We've got 3 screws on that power supply, so you'll see, oops, a daisy. So we've got 1, 2, 3 for the power supply, so let's take those out. I'm going to try avoiding talking about anything to do with radio, certainly AM or FM, because it's AM or FM, AM or medium wave or long wave or whatever AM actually is. I think it might be long wave. I'm not sure. But I don't know much about radios, so I don't really like talking a load of crap most of the time. It happens though. So this slides in quite nicely. We've got a little cutout there for the board, so we can hopefully just pull that out. Is it caught on anything? No. Hopefully no spider's going to come out, otherwise you're going to see my actual phobia. Are you going to come out? What are you caught on now? Oh, I see. It's just a little bit difficult to do. So we've got a fuse on here. And these are the windings. It's quite beefy, it feels very heavy. We've got a large capacitor, which is 1000 microfarads. And again, we've got a little sort of custom board there, which says Roberts Radio TRX 24.5, it looks like. And again, it's that weird, like, winding pattern. So they would have been hand laid out, those ones, so hand drawn. They didn't have software to do it then, so hand drawn and then etched away. Really interesting boards. I mean, I'm starting to really regret taking this thing apart now, because it is just lovely, but we're doing it now, so it's going to happen. So once this is out, I think we'll get a little AC to DC switch mode power supply and plonk that in there instead of this one, because this is kicking out 24 volts and 6 volts, and it's old. Although I'm sure it's fine, but I'm not sure I need it. I think I'd rather have a nice brand new power supply that's not going to have a lot of noise on it. Not that I expect this would, really. So what else do we have in here that we need to worry about? I don't think there's very much else. I think a lot of it's going to be very easy. So we've got our windings on there. That could probably come out. It's actually slid out already. It should slide back in that way. There we go. That's nice and stuck in. We've got some rubber here that's sort of wasting away a little bit. And then we've got our tuning dial. That is the thing I really want to reuse. So that is just there, if you can see that move. So what I could do is stick a few magnets onto it and have it detect those magnets at various points, or I can just connect something directly to it and have that relay its position. A rotary encoder perhaps. I'm not sure, we'll see. I think it's possible I may just try and read the capacitor that's on there, the tuning capacitor. I think that's what it is, so I'll do some research and find out. I don't want to assume that I know what's going on here, because I don't. But yeah, that's so that's pretty much all that's in there is this thing. So that is most of what's going on. So you've got this and the power supply. But then again, like, AM radios are really, really quite simple. So it's not surprising this doesn't have an awful lot going on. Okay, well, I think that'll do for today, because I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with it yet. I'm going to measure that power supply, and I'm also going to give it a bit of a load test and see what kind of current it will kick out. I don't think it's going to give me the 2 amps at 5 volts that I need, which is maximum. So let's say I'm using a Raspberry Pi, I want it to have some kind of peak current ability, and I don't think that power supply is really going to cut it. So we'll go for something a bit beefier. But it's beautiful, isn't it? It really is. Once I've sort of put a bit of beeswax on there, brightened it up a little bit, it's going to be brilliant. And I'll get these knobs glued back on. I'll clean it up. I might have to do get a bit of a black pen out just to cover up a few of these little bits. But yeah, it looks beautiful. All right, I will work on it further and let you know how I get on.